31 ultra rare $1 bills worth a lot of money. In this video, we're going to go over everything you need to know about rare $1 bills that sold online for a lot of money. So without wasting any more time, let's hop right into this video. Up first, we have a $1 bill from the series of 1995 that sold online for $1,800. Now you may be thinking, what can cause a $1 bill to sell for a lot of money? Well, there's numerous factors, and the first one is going to be the condition of the bill. So if you come across any of the bills that you see in this video, make sure that you handle them with care. Do not fold them or mishandle them, because a single fold on the bill can significantly decrease the value. Now don't get me wrong, there are plenty of bills that have a lot of folds on them that still sell for a lot of money, so don't write them off completely. But let's get to why this $1 bill from 1995 sold for $1,800. The big thing here is going to be the serial number. So if you look very closely, you can see that the serial number starts with the number 1 and ends with the number 8, and it goes consecutively in that order. This is what collectors call an ascending ladder serial number. You can also have a descending ladder going from, if it was the reverse, going from 8 all the way down to 1, or even 7 all the way down to 0. You get the idea. Keep your eyes out for rare serial numbers with an ascending or descending ladder, because they can be worth a lot of money, just like this one that sold for $1,800. This $1 bill sold for $2,520, and here's why. The first thing I want to point out on this bill is the centering. So look at the white margins all around the bill. You can see it's very top heavy. There's a lot of white margin on top. That is typically not a good thing, but this bill still has 0 folds on it whatsoever. But the better the centering is, the higher the grade you can get. The higher the grade you achieve, the more money the bill will generally be worth. When it comes to grading your paper money or buying graded paper money, we recommend only 2 companies, and that's either PCGS or PMG, because they are the most reputable. Another thing I want to point out on this bill is the fact that it is a star note. So we'll keep this very brief, but star notes, you can see at the end of the serial number there is a star. These occur when there is a printing issue on the sheet of paper money. A quality control manager will see that, and they will get that sheet of bills destroyed and replace it with a star note sheet. Star notes are more rare and sought after because there are not as many of them printed, but the main reason why this bill sold for this much money at $2,520 is because the back is actually inverted. It's upside down. Now, if you didn't know, when they're producing paper money, the back of the bill is actually the first print. So the back got printed first, and then the rest of the process, they somehow fed this sheet in the wrong way, causing this error to happen and sell for $2,520. Now, this 1977 bill is one that not many people know what to look out for, but we're going to share the secret right now. This is what we call a Natick test paper note. Now, there's not a lot of information known about these, except that the Bureau of Engraving and Printing had an experimental paper tested to see how it would handle in circulation. Now, even though these bills say 1977, these Natick test paper notes were actually produced in August of 1981. So that is a fun fact for you, that just because your bill has a date on it does not mean that's when it was actually produced. This is a great example of that. But it was a very small run of notes produced where they were testing the paper, and if you find one of these notes, you will easily be able to turn it into more money than $1. This one sold for $2,400 simply because it's a Natick test paper note. Now, how do you find one of these bills? The first thing is you need to find a 1977A. That is the first thing. The next thing you want to look for is a serial number range. So here's the range you want to keep an eye out for: E76000001H through 8064000H. This one got graded by PMG at a 64 EPQ, and it was allowed to sell online for $2,400. This is something really unique. So here's 1,000 $1 bills, so a face value of $1,000, and it sold in auction for $36 $37,375, and it's because someone went to a local bank and was able to pick up this brick of bills, which any of us can do today. But what makes this brick so valuable is the fact that the first bill is a serial number 1. You can see a bit of the serial number there as 4 zeros. There's a whole thing of zeros and then a number 1 at the end. After the first bill, there's a serial number 2, a serial number 3, all the way to serial number 1000. So if you're lucky enough to get a brick of notes like this, you could turn $1,000 into $37,375. Here's a 2006 $1 bill that was graded by PMG at a 66 EPQ. So when you're looking at the front of the bill, you won't see too much going on. One area I want to point out is the district letter there on the left. You can see the district seal, which is that black seal, and then inside there's a letter C. That C should always correlate with the start of the serial number. As you can see, the serial number starts with the letter C. If that big district letter was an A, the start of the serial number would be an A. A B, it would start with a B, etc. Also, you'll notice the number 3 around the bill in 4 areas. That is the district number. C is the third letter in the alphabet, so those two should always correlate. If the district letter was an A, those numbers would be a 1. If it was a B, they would be 2, so on and so forth. If you ever come across a bill that does not have those correlating, it could be a very rare error. But why did this $1 bill sell for $2,880? Well, it's because the back of the bill looks like this. Now, this is a genuine mistake. PMG is calling this a test note error. Pretty much how this occurs during the printing process is before they start printing a lot of bills, what the BEP will do is they will flood out a plate. They'll fill it up with ink completely to make sure that there are no mistakes happening. They want to make sure there's enough ink on the printing plates, because once these machines get up and running, they produce a lot of paper money. So once they produce this test note, what they do is they typically destroy it, but this one somehow got out of the printing facility, got graded by PMG, and then sold for $2,880. When you're looking at the back of this $1 bill, you'd have no idea why it sold for $7,200, but if you're looking at the back plate number on this bill, that is the small little number on the bottom right hand side of the center of the bill. That is essentially a bookkeeping internal number for the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. It's called a backplate number, and essentially it tells them where this specific bill was located on a printing plate. Now, there are some bills where that backplate number will matter and its location, but we'll talk about that in a bit. The reason why this one sold for $7,200 is because when you flip it over to the front, you can see that the second print was actually doubled. So remember, the back of the bill is the first print, the second print is what you see doubled here, and the third and final print is the overprint, which is the seal and the serial numbers here, which is not doubled. If you have a second print doubled bill like this, you could be in for a real treat, because this $1 bill sold for $7,200. We won't spend too much time on this one, but this is a genuine paper jam error that sold for $1,057.50. So pretty much somewhere in the printing process, this bill got pushed and jammed, torn up, and then printed on, and someone was able to find this out in Pocket Change and get it certified by PMG. They graded it at a 64 EPQ, and that's why it sold for $1,057.50. So these two $1 bills sold for a total of $5,500. We love talking about these 2013 $1 bills because there are a lot of people that actually don't know about them. So essentially, if you look very closely, this is what they call a duplicated serial number error. Now, if you didn't know, the United States produces paper money at 2 facilities in the US, either the Fort Worth, Texas facility or the Washington, D.C. facility. Now, there is a way to tell which bill you have and where it was printed. This is very important, so pay close attention. Essentially, you should never have the same exact serial number on a bill, but what people are doing is they're posting these bills on eBay or online, and then you can buy them if you have that same serial number that you see online. If you look very closely at the plate position on the front bottom right hand side of the bill, you'll see on one of them there is just a letter and a number, and on the other one there is that similar letter and number, except before you will have a FW standing for the Fort Worth, Texas facility. If your bill does not have an FW, that means it was produced at the Washington, D.C. facility. What you need to look out for here is to see if you have a 2013 star note that starts with a B prefix like this. There are people selling these $1 bills online for $10, $20, $30, even $50 $50 or more, the big value comes if you can find two of the same serial numbers. So what we recommend doing is that if you have one of these 2013 B prefix star notes, what you can do is you can either search on eBay to see if someone else has a star note that is identical to yours, or if you don't want to go through all that work, just sell your $1 bill on eBay for about $50. But it would be a kind of a feels bad moment if someone was to buy your bill and they had the other duplicate and they were able to sell it just like this person did for $5,500. Here we have a $1 bill that sold for $14,400, which is just so much money for this bill. Now this is a 2017 $1 bill. Now a lot of the time the US will make printing plates with a date on it, and they will use that date for a certain number of years. For example, this 2017 $1 bill could have been produced anywhere between 2017 and 2021. The reason I bring this up is because it's very important to know that, and this essentially, if you haven't noticed already, is a Leppi press error. So somehow during the printing production of this bill, there's a mistake on the serial number on the bottom left there, where both the serial numbers should have looked like the top right serial number. This one was graded by PMG at a 50 EPQ, meaning that there are some folds on this bill. You can see one definitely going right down the center there of this $1 bill. What you need to know is that if you find one of these Leppi press error $1 bills, you could be in for a lot of money, because this one sold for $14,400. So this is one of our favorite types of bills to look out for, and we recommend doing the same to you. And it's not because what you may think. This $1 bill sold for $4,200, and it's because it's a highly sought after web press note. This is a 1988 $1 bill. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, the United States Bureau of Engraving and Printing, where they produce paper money, wanted to start printing bills faster. There's a lot of demand and a lot of pressure for them to produce. What they did was they saw how newspapers were being printed, and they thought that they could produce a lot more paper money using the same technique they used, which is using a web press machine. Now, the way bills were produced in the past and are still produced today is by individual sheets of bills. What a web press does is it's one continuous roll of paper money that they feed through a sheet. This sounds great, but in reality, all this really did was cause a lot of headaches for the BEP. So there's a few ways to tell if you have a web press note. Now remember, if you have one of the things I show you here, then by default you must have all three. You cannot have just one of these. So the first area we like to point out is Washington's portrait is going to be a bit more washed out compared to a normally issued bill. The next area to look at is the front plate number. Now the front plate number on a web note will only have a number, and it will not have a letter plus a number. So you can see the difference there. Now the last and easiest area to look at, in our opinion, is the backplate number. The backplate number on a web note is going to be located to the right of In God We Trust, and non-web press notes are located at the bottom right side of the center of the bill on the back. If you have a web press note, you have a very rare bill, and if it's in good graded condition like this, you could sell it for a lot of money, just like this person did that turned $1 into $4,200. This bill sold for $24,000. Now we won't spend a ton of time here, but you can see the condition's a lot worse. This one got graded at a 40 PPQ. PPQ meaning premium paper quality, but 40 means that there are numerous folds on this bill. So keep the bill in good condition, because less folds means more money in your pocket. But this is also a web press note. But the big thing here, if you haven't noticed already, is that the suffix, which is the last digit in the serial number, is mismatched. So you have an L at the top right and a star at the bottom left. This is considered to be an error note. Remember, I was just talking about a lot of errors happening on these web press notes. This is a perfect example of a web press note error, and this one sold for $24,000. Here is a 1988 $1 bill that sold for $21,600. Now when you're looking at the back of this $1 bill, you won't see anything out of the normal until you flip it over to the front and see that this is a multiple impressions error. So what happened is the back of the bill got printed first as usual, then the front of the bill got printed, and then somehow the sheet got fed back into the first printing. Now this very well could have been done on purpose. This is also a highly altered bill. By that we mean that people will see videos like ours and try to replicate this bill by putting a $1 bill through their printer. Now if you have a USB microscope or magnification, what I would do is I would loop the area and see if you can see what looks like an inkjet or laser printed on the bill, which would be incorrect. Genuine $1 bills will have engraving or intaglio printing, which is a high quality printing, but this one is definitely genuine because it was graded and authenticated by PMG at a 63 EPQ. PPQ, and that's why this multiple impression Air $1 bill sold for $21,600. Here are two $1 bills that sold for a total of $1,800. Now, if you haven't seen it already, at the bottom left-hand side of the bill, you will see what is called an obstructed plate error. So PMG is saying that there was an obstruction or some sort of foreign object that was in between the pieces of paper and the printing plate, which caused this error to happen. If you ever find one of these rare $1 bills from the series of 1977, you could have a rare and valuable $1 bill because this one sold for $1,800. When you're looking at the back of this $1 bill, you wouldn't know it sold for $1,800 until you flipped it over to the front and saw that this is an additional black overprint error, and also that district overprint is misaligned. You can see the black district seal on the left is actually way too far down. So this does have multiple errors occurring. There's an ink smear on the face of Washington there, as well as that misaligned district overprint. If you have a rare 2001 $1 bill like this, that graded by PCGS at a 40 PPQ, you could have a rare bill. This one sold for $1,800. We won't spend a ton of time on this bill, but this is a genuine $1 bill from 1890. This is a treasury note with a large brown spiked seal on the right hand side, and the back has a beautiful, beautiful design that we really do enjoy. We wish that they still produced rare $1 bills like this today. If you have an 1890 treasury note like this, you might want to get it checked out by a paper money expert because this one sold for $38,775. This $1 bill sold for $1,800. Now it looks a bit blurry on the front, and that's because the second print here is doubled. Sometimes this will look more or less blurry depending on how doubled that front print really is. If you have a 1988 $1 bill that has a doubled print error like this, you could do what this person did and literally turn $1 into $1,800. So this is something super unique. This is a $1 bill that sold for $1,821.25. When you're looking at the bottom of this 1985 $1 bill, you'll see what looks like an extra piece of paper at the bottom. Once you flip the bill over, you can see the printing looks like it was torn. What actually happened here is this is called an end of roll error. So when the Crane Paper Company is supplying paper to the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, what they do is they typically have these on rolls before they cut them up into the appropriate sizes. Now sometimes at the end of the roll, what they have is two pieces of rolls stuck together to continue the roll and cutting process. What happened here is that the two rolls were stuck together. This was the end of the roll. Almost think of it like when you're getting to the end of a toilet paper roll. They need to make sure that it sticks and doesn't just fall off. That's what happened here. Now this is something extremely unique. We've actually never seen one of these in hand, and it's pretty rare when they go up for auction. If something like this was to sell today, we would imagine it would bring more money than $1,821.25. We really enjoy these bills. This one sold for $1,840, and that's because this 1963 $1 bill is what we call a specimen note. Now, specimen notes were produced in order to give out to countries around the world that accept U.S. paper money. The idea was a bank teller would be able to look at the specimen note to make sure that the bills they were being given were indeed genuine paper money bills. A lot of the time, people in the past would go to banks around the world to deposit fake money to try to get it into the system with unsuspecting bank tellers. As you can imagine, there's a lot of collector value for a specimen stamped bill like this. So what likely happened was a bank teller knew a collector, and what they did was they took this out of the bank and they sold it to a collector. Who knows how much they paid, but they sold it on a heritage auctions for $1,840. Now there's a few ways to look out to see if you have a real specimen note. The first way is going to be making sure that the printing of specimen is a letterpress. So when you get magnification and you look at the printing on that, there should be a halo around the letters there. It should not look like it was produced in a printer with inkjet or laser printing. And the last way to help secure that you have one of these bills is looking at the serial number. Pretty much every specimen note we've seen has a fancy serial number like this. This one is an ascending ladder, meaning it goes from 2 all the way to 9 consecutively. If you have a rare specimen bill, you're going to want to get it certified and sold in auction, just like this one that sold for $1,840. Here we have an 1869 $1 bill. Now this is a real piece of paper money from the United States of America. You can see a depiction of Christopher Columbus on the left hand side. We have Washington in the middle, and what collectors actually call this bill is a rainbow note due to all the security features and how colorful it really is. We really enjoy rainbow notes from the 1869 series. If you have one, keep it safe and contact a rare paper money expert, because this one sold for $31,200. This $1 bill sold for $1,920. Now we're going to zoom in on this bill really quickly. We want you to leave a comment down below. Pause the video. Why do you think this bill sold for $1,920? Look closely and let us know below. If you haven't figured it out, you can leave a comment saying no, and if you do see it, leave a comment down below saying yes. Alright, so here it is. This is a mismatched serial number error. If you look at the first two digits of the serial number, at the bottom left you'll see 11, at the top right serial number you'll see 00. This is what collectors call a mismatched serial number error, and it sold for $1,920. This bill is a genuine $1 bill from the 1928 series, and it sold for $99,875. Now the first thing that pops out to you is going to be that blue seal and serial number. These are so cool, and actually back in the day you could bring this $1 bill to a local bank and they would have paid you an equal value of silver. That's right, you could bring this $1 bill to a bank and they would give you silver back. There were also gold certificates, but the lowest denomination for those is $10, but more on that in a different video. What you need to know here is that if you have a 1928D $1 silver certificate that is also a star note and it's a high grade of a 66 like this, you have an incredibly rare $1 bill, and this one sold for $99,875. If you're looking at the back of this $1 bill, you will have no idea why it sold for $3,000 until you flip it over to the front and see that the second print of this bill got flooded out. This is a test note error similar to the one we talked about earlier in this video. Essentially, before they started production of these bills, they wanted to test out the printing plates, so what they did was they flooded the plate with ink to make sure it was fully inked up, and somehow this bill got out and it sold for $3,000. $2,160 for this 1988 $1 bill. Now if you paid close attention, you will actually understand why this bill sold for so much money. Now what we're going to do is we're going to show you the front and the back of this $1 bill. What we want you to do is let us know why this bill sold for so much money. Again, we talked about it before, and if you were paying attention, let us know down below, and if you forgot, that's okay, we're going to tell you right now. So this is a note that was graded by PMG at a 65 EPQ. Now from the grade of 60 to 70, it really comes down to the centering of the bill. So if you look at the white margin around the bill, the more centered that is, the more money it's going to bring. But the bill needs to have 0 folds on it, just like this one. The big reason is because this is a web note. Now we'll show you the three areas once again. You have Washington's portrait, which will be more washed out. Then you have the front plate number, which just has that number. And lastly, you're going to have the back plate number positioned to the right of In God We Trust. If you have a web note, make sure you get it authenticated, because it's going to be worth a lot more money than just one little dollar. This is really cool. So this $1 bill sold for $2,160, and that's because this is a misalignment error. So the back of the bill was printed normally, then the front of the bill was printed normally as well, but then when they went to cut the bill, they cut it incorrectly, causing the bill to get fed into the feeder of that third overprint incorrectly, causing this misalignment error that sold for $2,160. So here we have a bill that sold for $28,200. Now you may be asking yourself, what is this thing? Now this is actually one of the first types of US paper money that was ever produced. This is a 1781 $1 bill from the state of New York. Now this is wild. Most people don't even know these things exist. These are called colonial notes or continental currency, depending on the year. Now we think a lot of these are highly undervalued, except this example was graded very highly. It's a great condition note, and depending on the specific bill that you have will dictate its rarity. There's a lot of counterfeits of these out there. If you have one of these and it says copy anywhere on it, that means it's fake and it's not worth anything. But if you have a genuine colonial or continental paper money like this real $1 bill, then you're in for a treat, because this one sold for $28,200. Here's a $1 bill that sold for $3,525, and it's because there's a solid serial number on this bill. Now we love seeing really beat up $1 bills because it shows us that these bills were actually out in pocket change exchange for a long time before someone noticed them and put them into a collection and sold them online. This bill is also retouched, so if you look at the Washington portrait and the eagle on the right and the pyramid on the left on the back, you can see that they look a little weird. So if you're looking at Washington's portrait, it looks a bit darker than usual. What they did was they got some sort of ink or lead and they smeared it into the bill to make it look darker and more original. And on the back of the bill, what they did was they got some sort of green crayon or pencil and they smeared it into the bill to make it look more natural. To the untrained eye, this may look more natural, but someone like myself who has seen a lot of these bills, I can tell for certain that's why there's a negative comment on the back saying retouched, because that is what they did right there. However, the big reason why this one sold for so much money is because it's a solid number 1 serial number. Now, if you have one of these, you want to keep it very safe. Don't fold it, because if this bill was in better condition, it would have sold for a lot more money than $3,525. Here's a bill that sold for $6,600. Now, the first thing I noticed about this bill was the fact that someone wrote 50 on the left-hand side there, and there's also a lot of staining. It's not in the best condition, but it is a serial number 1 bill. If this bill was in better condition, it would have sold for a lot more money than $6,600. This is a genuine 1899 $1 bill, one of our favorite types of US paper money. We're a bit biased here. We love all large size bills like this. This is much bigger than the normal paper money that we're used to seeing today, but collectors call this a Black Eagle note for pretty apparent reasons. There you can see a black eagle in the center. What allowed this bill to sell for $90,000 is because 1, it's a very high grade, and 2, it's a solid number 9 serial number. Rare serial numbers like this are super unheard of. Now, if this bill was really beat up and it was not a rare serial number, it's going to be worth anywhere from $50 to $100. But the big value is in the condition and the serial number. And there are people out there with deep pockets willing to pay a lot of money for rare bills like this one that sold for $90,000. So this is just a better example of a serial number 1 bill. You can see the condition is much better. This is a 2013 $1 bill. So someone likely went to a local bank and picked up a pack of bills and found this bill and was able to sell it in auction for $8,225, $16,800. Now, if you ever heard about the lucky number 7s, this bill is that person's dream, because this is a solid number 7 serial number bill that graded by PMG at a 66 EPQ, and it sold for $16,800. So these two bills sold for $58,750. Now, we wanted to talk about this because this is a little bit of a story that a bank teller used to work at a bank, and what they did was they received a pack of bills that, if you look down here, he has the original packaging. It was meant to go from the serial number range of 999960001 all the way to a 100 million serial number. But what accidentally happened here was when they went to make that 100 million serial number, because this is a pack of 4,000 $1 bills, as you can see here, that last bill didn't get the correct serial number, and it just has a solid 0 serial number. You can even see a BEP rejection mark on the right hand side of the bill, where a BEP employee saw this mistake and they put a red marker on the bill so they could reject and destroy that bill. But what accidentally happened is this got out into circulation, and a bank teller held onto it and later sold it. You know, what they did was they kept the first bill from the pack and the last bill, which was this one, and they were able to sell it online for $58,750. If you enjoyed this video, then smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.